Hey guys, this is Woodworker Weira back here for a new tool day. I forget what yeah, it is NTD. Trying to remember what the accurate or the thing is on Reddit. Got some Weira screwdrivers. These are I have no idea what model number it is. I'm sorry. But they're the insulated screwdrivers. They've got good Velcro. This is a 19 piece. I'm not an electrician at all. But I do work on electrical stuff every now and then. So I kind of just figured, hey, why not? I'll get some electrical rated insulated screwdrivers. So that if I ever do work on a live circuit for whatever reason that I'm, safer. Doesn't really make that much difference. I don't have any other real equipment for this other than a pair of insulated pliers, which I'm sure I've shown before. These Knipex guys right here. It's interesting. I've got all American large tools, Chinese, like power tools, and then it seems like all of my hand tools are becoming insulated, and they're German. We've got Knipex and we've got Wera or Weira, however you pronounce it. I know this one's Knipex. I don't know how they pronounce this specifically, but anyway. So this came with two handles, which I think is really nice. Part of the reason when I originally got this, I was wanting to get full-size normal screwdriver, like a whole set of just screwdrivers that, dedicated, 4mm common, or slotted, or, number 2 Phillips or whatever. But this was a lot cheaper than that, and so I ended up getting this. And actually, I still wish I would have gotten the other, but it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, so we'll go through this, and again, I don't remember what number this. Oops, I don't remember what model number this is. But before we go through any of it, we're gonna move that over there because that's not part of the set. We're gonna go through this and we're gonna look at them. You've seen reviews of this probably. If you haven't, you can find them very easily. But I'm gonna do it anyway. So this yellow part right here and the red part here are hard plastic. The yellow bits down here on the actual handle part of this are like a rubberized silicone or something material that's grippy, so you can get torque. This yellow part up here again is hard plastic, and it is spring loaded out. To get these, I forget what they call them. They're bits, I think, or something. Anyway, to get these shafts in here, you have to pull that down and then push it in. So it's not very easy to do with one hand, but I'm going to try. And this is hard plastic, and then obviously the tip is metal. I'm going to try and do this with one hand. See if it's possible. Okay, so you saw that. You actually don't need to push this in. It just makes it a little bit easier. But it's very light. I'm really surprised. It's actually lighter than if we look over here at those Bondas, which are American made. I love those. That's what I was really looking for, is that kind of handle shape, which clearly That is not. But anyway, those are actually heavier than this is, which I find very interesting. It kind of makes me wonder how long the shaft is of this metal, which it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's an electrical screwdriver. You're not going to be, prying things with these or anything. They've probably got a $400, electrical rated pry bar for that if you want to pry things. But anyway, so again, durability on these, they're fine for what they do. They don't need to be something that's, weighs 5 pounds. And really, when you've got 19 pieces, you don't really want it to weigh, 5 pounds per screwdriver assembly. But anyway, I kind of wish it did have a little bit more heft to it, but actually this is nice for when you're actually using it for, if you're using this all day, you're going to probably be happy that it's kind of light. It is heavier in the handle than it is than the blade. It's kind of balanced around this first fat bit there. In this area is where it would be balanced, just right about there. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. Sure does to somebody, but not to me. But anyway, so why did I pick this set? They've got a bunch of these different sets. They've got, I think, a 5 or a 7 piece to begin with, and then it just goes up from there. And they all come in the same bag, I believe. And all of these are really nice, well made. They're padded too, which is, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It's not necessary, but it's kind of interesting that they would pad a screwdriver case. But anyway, about 1/4 inch thick, and it really is a pretty compact case. I mean, imagine having a bunch of these. If you had a full-size screwdriver, you'd have to have this thing be at least another inch wide just to hold the screwdriver. And these aren't super long. They're like a medium or normal size screwdriver, I would say. For comparison, if I can get it out of here, this is an old Irwin, made in USA, 6-inch blade. So this is 6 inches, and you can see that's at least 1.5 inches or 2 inches longer than this is. And that's not even, I mean, like, this is a big screwdriver, but it's not like big. It's, decent size. They make these that are, 8 or 10 inch blades. I don't know what you use that for, honestly, but they make them. But just for comparison. But these are good, and this thing is a lot heavier than this. It's interesting because this part of the screwdriver is absolutely weightless, and the rest of it's just really heavy. This part, the whole thing is balanced in such a way that it feels like all the weight is kind of in here, and it really feels just weightless. This one, there's like a real heft to it because of all the weight being out there, and it's pulling it down like this. This one, all of the weight is like on these 2 fingers, so it's just kind of there, which is good. I like that. This one, I mean, you pick it up and it's like, oh man, this thing's got metal in it. This one's like, wow, this feels like plastic. But you're using this all day, or you're using this all day, you're going to prefer this a lot over that. Anyway, the reason I bought this, I looked all over. I looked at Knipex brand, who's made by Vissa, I think, Wisse. I think that's, I don't remember. All over. There's Knipex, there's that company, which I can't think of. There's Fellow, Felo. There's, what is there's Wera, and there's Weha or Viha. And then there's like the American ones. I'm sure there's American ones. I was just looking at German ones, honestly. Then there's Japanese ones. Those are, I can only imagine how expensive those are. And I didn't actually look at Japanese ones. It didn't even occur to me, actually. But judging from Pliers, because I have looked at that, there's Chinese over here. There's Chinese pliers that are cheap. Then there's channel locks. Then there's your German pliers that are your cheap pliers are say $10 a pair. For combination plier or whatever, just a plain old thing, doesn't really have any kind of nice grip on it or anything. It's going to have a rubberized grip, but it's not going to have comfort grips. You got that maybe $10, $12 for a decent, well, not even in quote marks, just plain decent, good, workable Chinese-made screwdriver. Then you go up, you've got your channel locks. They make comfort grips, but most of the time, most of the ones I've seen are just plain old dipped. It's a solid metal grip, and then they just dipped it in some rubberized coating, and they sell it to you, which is fine, It's not as comfortable, but it's fine. And those are going to be, around $20. In fact, we'll just go through that. This is a screwdriver video, but I'm using pliers. Kind of interesting. Okay, we're gonna, let's see. I thought I had the cheap Chinesium deal someplace. Here we go. We're gonna go with these. They're the cheap Chinesium. Which they're not really totally, but vice grip. Everybody's seen them. I believe these are made in China. They don't say made in USA, so that probably means they're made in China. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's where it was made. They can make whatever they want there. It's just the majority of stuff that you see from there is not good quality because they're wanting to save, a company goes there to save money. They're not going there to, make the best tool possible necessarily. Now, again, there's, Tecton Taiwan tools, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They may not have quite the fit and finish of, an SK, SK, maybe a Snap-on, I don't know about them. They might not have a fit and finish of that, but they work. And then there's like, your cheapest Harbor Freight version of whatever tool that's made in China and probably not very good. In fact, Project Farm literally just today released a video on locking pliers, and the cheapest one that he got, I think it was like $6 or $8, was a Harbor Freight set of vice grips like this. The bolt, the adjustment nut here, wasn't even welded. It was just kind of crimped closed. It couldn't cut through a unhardened 16 penny nail. It got up to, I think, 60 inch pounds, not foot pounds, inch pounds of torque on this this adjustment nut here before it died. Now I don't know how that compares to your good German adjustment of Gutentight, but be that as it may, the rest of the pliers that were anywhere from $10 to $55 or 40, no, it's $44, 10 to 40, 10 to $44, all made it to 120 inch-pounds of torque. Which, if I'm doing my math correctly, is 10 foot-pounds. Not a whole lot of torque. Especially when you're talking about a 1/4-inch screw like that, that can a lot more torque than that. Or a lot more pressure than that, I guess. Probably a lot more torque than that, too. Anyway, you've got your Chinese grade tool over here. These probably cost $8 or $10. Okay, they're plain old tools, you know. If it's a regular plier, it's probably going to have some kind of coating like this. Then you've got your channel locks. Now, these are US made. They're about double the price of, you know, your generic brand. They're very, very well made. They function, well, I shouldn't say well made. They're well enough made, and they're very functional. These particular ones I've reviewed before. They can cut a Spax number 8 screw and have barely any damage to the jaws, to the cutter. I've done it. This is a pretty grippy texture here. That's fine. This is what I should have used for the pliers, because this is cheapo. It's Milwaukee, but they're not really that great. Paint, I don't know why they painted it, but they painted it and it's all scratched off. The handles are glued on. It looks like they used a glue gun, and didn't bother with like wiping off any of the excess or anything. Okay grip. It's more like a hard plastic or super hard rubber. Barely grippy. I think the texture on it is the grippiest part about it. It's not the material. Whereas this, you know, it's kind of slippery, but if you grip onto it, it's like it'll, you know, it's pretty sticky. Not as sticky as this, where it's textured rubber, but still okay. So you've got your cheap tools, then you've got your channel locks for about double that, or 70% more, somewhere in there. But they're way better in functionality. Like, these are going to outlast these by a long time. These, not those. You know, and then that your little Play-Doh brand here. I think these are pretty good. I don't know. They're just electronics cutters, snippers, flush cutters that I actually bought from iFixit. These are made in USA. They didn't say where. You can kind of see the made in USA there. If it'll focus, which it won't. It says made in the US. Kind of, because the plastic here is in the way, I should say. But anyway, so there's your, you know, channel lock type price range and quality. They're functional. They're not the best fit and finish. You know, you can kind of see there's grind marks on here. They absolutely work fine. They're made well. They're just not finished well. Then you get over here into your Knipex type, you know, like your entry-level Knipex stuff here. I mean, this is $50, and that's another 30, but, you know, ignoring the particular type of pliers it is, you know, you've got your Knipex, and that is, you know, your basic rubber, same basic thing as this, is a little bit more cushiony. I believe that they actually pre-molded these handles and then they slid them on, whereas this, they literally just dipped it in a vat of whatever this material is and called it good. And then they printed their information on it too. But anyway, so these are a little bit more than these are usually $5 or $10 more than whatever your channel lock version is. Up above that, you get into your your better Knipex. And Weira, Weha, whoever makes these that are German, they're generally going to be in this category. This is 8 or 10. This is around 20. These are, 25 to 35, somewhere in there. A little bit more than these. And then over here someplace, you've got your Japanese tools that are like 60 for a pair of pliers that aren't very big. They're like, your Vam pliers, or your, I forget what the name of the other one is, the Fujiyama or something. Pliers that are about, like that big or whatever, that are screw extraction pliers. By the way, another Project Farm video that's great if you want to watch that. But anyway, they are like the top of the line finish wise. They're just really, really well made. Not necessarily the most brute force of tools. They will actually break before your channel locks or your Knipex do. Or at least in that particular video that he tested those particular pliers, that was the case. I'm not saying the Japanese tools aren't good. I'm just saying that, from what I've seen, in general, their fit and finish is top of the line. Their quality is also top of the line, but it's not necessarily geared towards abuse. It's more geared towards, I'm going to use this, the way a sane, normal person would use them. And then it's just going to be a pleasure to use all the time, as opposed to, I'm going to reef on a bolt and break this tool trying to get this done. Which is more what, in my opinion, what Channel Lock is going after. And they do a very good job of that. They make a very good tool. In this case, Channel Lock actually makes these particular cutters with a very thin wall here above the rivet, which gives it a lot easier cutting ability than even those $60 it wasn't Van Pliers. I'm forgetting what Fujiyama or something name. The Japanese ones are like $60, and then you've got your Van Pliers that are like 45 or 50. But anyway, you've got these tools which are more, well, move those over because those aren't. You've got your channel locks, your Knipex, your Weha, possibly. I'm using Knipex because they make pliers, and channel locks because they make pliers. Weha, they have them, but I've only ever seen 3 that they make. They're insulated, and they're a lot shorter than these high leverage Knipex ones. But anyway, these are meant for, hard use, and all that, whereas your nicer Japanese ones, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, they seem to be more of, oh wow, this is a really, 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 really nice tool that I'm not going to ever want to abuse, which legitimately probably don't want to for $60 for a pair of pliers. But anyway, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. So over here, we go back to what this video is actually supposed to be about. We've got screwdrivers. You've got your cheap screwdrivers. Now this isn't a cheap one, this is a US made one, but an old screwdriver. You've got your super cheapo ones that are, over here you've got your black Harbor Freight ones that you get for free, and then you've got your Stanley one that you get in a red toolbox that was $80 for a whole bunch of tools that are frankly not very good. Then you've got your Stanleys you actually bought screwdrivers as screwdrivers. Then you've got your Bontas up here, you bought screwdrivers because you wanted them to actually last. And then you have over here, because Bontas doesn't make insulated screwdrivers, you have what you could afford for insulated screwdrivers. Now with this, again, there's nicer ones. I just couldn't get them. I believe Fellow is probably the closest thing, and it's actually related, not related, is like made by the same company as Bontas, or Bontas owns them, or I forget who owns who. But Bondhis, Fellow, and there's another company I forget, are all connected. Which makes sense because their handles look almost exactly identical. Weha is not part of, from what I've seen, is not part of that same group. But their handles are very similar. That said, I've heard with, at least with their insulated screwdrivers, this is all I'm going by, that their fit in the screws are not quite perfect. And also that their steel that they use is fairly soft. Whether that's the case, I don't know. And there's a reason for that, which is that these companies come up with these newfangled things, specifically the Phillips Screw Company. I totally forget if that's actually the name of the company or not. The guys that came up with the Phillips, I take that back. The company that owns the copyright for Phillips drive screws, which I believe is the Phillips Screw Company, they actually own Phillips, Pozzi drive, and something else that we use a lot. The world uses a lot. I forget what it is. And they license it, and it's like all over the place. These like the 3 most used screws, not slotted. I don't think. I wouldn't be surprised, but like they're the standard. Like if you get a generic screw, it's most likely going to be a design that's copyrighted by that company. The only one I can think of off the top of my head that is not is Torx. Now there are a lot of different screw types in the world. Oh, Robertson Square Drive is the other one. So Phillips Pozzi drive and Robertson Square Drive, same thing. It's possibly slightly different standardization, but it's basically the same. It's a square. That's not a square, but Anyway, those 3 are the Phillips Screw Company, owns the copyrights to those and licenses that out to all the companies that make that type of screws. But then you've got your Torx drive, which is a different company altogether that I don't remember the name of. And frankly, they did a whole lot better job of designing that because the other 3 have major, in my opinion, major problems. Phillips and Pozzi drive. Pozzi drive is a slightly more, the problem with Phillips, and the reason that they, at least the reason I've heard, the reason they use those for drywall screws so much is because they cam out. Now, I don't know if it was designed to do that. I don't think it was originally. There's actually, the history guy on YouTube actually does a very good job on a whole like 15 or 20 minute video on the history of screws. And he goes into all this, and I learned a lot of this from him, and I also learned a lot of this from wanting to grab these screwdrivers. Doing research on that and everything. But basically, the slotted screwdriver, your common straight slot, those came out first, obviously, because that's the easiest thing you can do. You can just file a groove in the top of a screw after you've done forged it, or after you're done forging it rather, and you're done. You don't have to mold anything or anything like that. Then along comes your Phillips, because they're like, okay, well, this thing slides out of that. You've got your screw head here, and you're doing your thing, and it's just going like slippity sliding all over the place, except where you're actually wanting it to be. So they came up with the Phillips, and I believe the guy's name that actually came up with it was Phillips. I could be wrong though, I forget. Anyway, doesn't really matter what his name was, but he invented this. It's got basically 2 of these at a 90-degree angle. So, obviously you've got a slot this way and a slot this way. But it's also pointed. This is flat. A Phillips is obviously pointed. Much like that profile, as you can see. It's pointed, which means that when you're using it, it's generally wanting to stay in the middle of the screw. The problem with that is that the way that the geometry of the thing works is there's very little reason for that ant to exist. Why is he still alive? Okay. Anyway, we've got that out of the way. Where was I? Oh, so the reason that the problem with these is that the geometry in here is such that the screwdriver does not want to stay in that. It generally wants to stay. If you put enough pressure, it'll stay there. If you don't have enough pressure and you have too much torque, it'll slide right out and it'll cam out the screw, which is one reason why I've heard that they use Phillips on drywall screws, is in addition to you using a drywall screwdriver where it's torque limited. I believe. Pretty sure it's torque limited on those. Anyway, I can't imagine that they wouldn't have that torque limited. But anyway, in addition to that, you've also got your screw, which is basically torque limited, because if you're just putting it, you're pushing on your drill, and it goes, and it just shreds the thing. Well, that ruins your drill bit, but it also protects it from, like, with a Torx, for instance, it's not going to let go unless you have the wrong size, and it'll just go right through the drywall, and as far into the board as your bit lets it. If it can't go any further, then it's obviously not going to, then it's going to strip out because the screw's going to keep on going and it's going to just fall off the end of the bit. But that's Phillips. Pozzi drive was an improvement on Phillips. It's actually got, let's see if I've got it in here. It's not really a Pozzi drive. It's a Pozzi drive slotted bit. So it's actually like a cross between the two. It's a mess. No idea why they invented this, but they did. You can see there's an extra little triangle in here between the 90-degree things. So imagine a compass. You've got north, south, east, and west. Imagine you've got northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest also. And that's a Pozzi drive. That's supposed to add torque. I don't know how that is adding torque. Apparently it does. But it's still not very good. And then, you've got your Robertson / square drive that, generally is a lot better. Torx, in my opinion, Torx is like the king. I'm sure that there are other ones that are way more specialized. Spline drive, possibly, that kind of thing. Spline drive, Torx, kind of the same thing. Not really, because they've got different numbers of teeth and everything or whatever, but generally the same idea. Anyway, so that's the history of that. I don't know why I was telling you that, but anyway, with that said, I wanted to get a kit that had all this stuff, so I got one. I've got Phillips number 1 and 2, which this is a. It'd be really nice if they told on this. This is one thing that bothers me about these. That and the fact that I don't have a thing to hold this with bothers me. But anyway, I guess I'll just hold it. They've got the writing. First of all, they've got writing at all on these. On this part of the shaft that's inside of the screwdriver. Well, that's great if it's in the bag. Otherwise, it's not really helpful because it doesn't tell you up here anything except that it's rated for 1000 volts, IEC 60900, DVE triangle thing, GS weird square thing, C. You cannot read that. There's no way to read that, really, because my camera won't focus for beans, but I don't know. I'm sorry. And then it's got all this writing over here that says Weira or Weira 21, which is actually the year it's made. That's an interesting tidbit right there. That little thing in the groove there is actually the year it's made. KK62i, I have no idea. Compact kit, I don't know. These are compact compact or compact craft or something. That's probably what this is, which is actually referring to the type of the screwdriver handle. And then a compact, I believe, is this, where it's individual blades as opposed to, that's what these are called, as opposed to full-on screwdrivers, including handles. It's just the blade and a separate screwdriver handle. And then you've got Phillips slotted, which is that PH/S, and then the number. So this is Phillips slotted 2, and as you can see, it's Phillips with a slotted screw added. Now, these are insulated screwdrivers, which means you're going to be working on electrical stuff. That profile is what apparently, a lot of your outlets and that kind of thing use. Now, there's also someplace here. Here it is, Phillips Pozzi drive. Or, Pozzi drive slotted. So there's Phillips slotted here, which is just a Phillips and a slotted crossed. And then there's a Pozzi drive slotted, which is Pozzi drive and slotted crossed. Same basic thing. If you try and use these in a screw that's made for that, it will not work. If you try to use this in a screw that's made for this, I think it would fit. These will not fit in a Phillips screw at all. They just don't. I think that these would fit in a Pozzi drive. However, I don't think that it would work very well. It wouldn't have as much torque as the Pozzi drive would. But anyway, I bought this because this kit had those 4 screwdrivers. That was like literally the reason I got this. Because those are specialized, and if you try and you could use a regular slotted screwdriver on them, but slotted screwdrivers are terrible. I'm a historian, like literally. Not officially yet, because I don't have my bachelor's degree, but, I'm a historian. I think that these should be relegated to history and left there. It should go in a museum and stay there. Like, every screw that is common in the world should be taken out and replaced with anything else, possibly. I don't know. I'm not aware of any that are worse than these, except possibly Phillips, which Phillips are better than this because they don't, the screwdriver doesn't try to slide out sideways. At least it's, if you put enough pressure on the thing, it'll stay in there. I think everything ought to go to Torx, personally, but anyway, there are actually industries where they want it to cam out or to come out, but I don't remember what I saw, I believe Weha or Wera, I think it was Weha, had a write-up on all the different types of screwdriver profiles. And they actually went into detail of why which company owned it, copyrighted it, and also what industries it's used for and why. And it was very helpful. So you could go look that up, but that's your homework for the day. But I just slotted, we should just toss. It would just save so much time. Like the only reason you should have one of these is to be a pry bar. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. We have to have these for a lot of different things. But anyway, so those four, and then I've got two number 1 and a number 2 square drive, as well as number 1 and a number 2 Pozzi drive slotted, number 1 and number 2 Phillips slotted, then your number 1 and number 2 square drive, and 1 and 2 Phillips. I'm going to skip over these for now. I'm going to come back to them. This is the one thing I don't like about this case, is it kind of like, this is the most used screwdriver, so I get it, but I really wish that this thing would just like fold over so I could not have to fiddle with it. But anyway, maybe what I'll do, there. These are all slotted. So we've got a 2.5, it shows here the size, 2.5, 3.5, 4, and 5.5 millimeter screwdrivers. So to put that in perspective, 5.5 is around 1/4 inch. It's a little bit smaller than that. I don't know what size this is, this Irwin, but it's smaller than that. Although not a bunch. I'd say this Irwin is probably like a 5/16. Something around that. I don't know if these are standardized for European fasteners, or if they are the equivalent of American sizes but in millimeters. I don't know. I haven't even looked at. I really don't know much about slotted screwdrivers because I hate them so much. I don't ever look at the actual size of the thing. I just figure out, oh, this one fits and that one doesn't. Like that's as far as I go into it. I'm sure that there's all kinds of like sciencey stuff for Torx and things that each one can do, but I don't bother with that. I just, this one doesn't fit, I need one bigger or smaller than that, and that's as far as my thinking goes for that. But I've got 4 different sizes in here, and it looks to me like they're pretty much the normal sizes. Again, these things are another thing that I kind of like this, because it keeps these from, like, if it's folded in like this and it's all crushed together, it keeps these from falling out. But they're so annoying to, like, they're stiff and they want to like fold in, which is nice when you just wrap it up, but it's like all the other times I'd like to actually be able to see what screwdriver I'm using. Anyway, yeah, it looks like this is a smaller one than I would normally use or see. That's like the smallest I've ever seen in a normal screwdriver, not literally the smallest. I have a literal 1 millimeter slotted in that I'm actually using for my microscope. But anyway, then we've got so what is it, 2.5, 3.5. There's a 4 millimeter in here. I don't know why they've got such close sizes there, but whatever. And a 5.5. And I wanted to note that these do not have the little crosshatch things that Weira normally does for their, or Wera normally does for their screwdrivers, or some of their screwdrivers have like a pattern, a laser etched pattern on the tip of the screwdriver that helps grab the screw a little bit better. These don't have that. I don't know why, but they don't. I was kind of hoping they did, but I don't. They fit in screws just fine, so it's not really that big of a deal. It's just a kind of like, I kind of wish that they had that, since they want so much money for these. These are a panel. Are they I totally forget what these are called. They're basically little, oh, and they're not even gonna, wow. Look at the different, now this is glass reinforced nylon right here. This is like, I don't know what, ABS maybe or something. that these are made out of. But these are like smooth and shiny. This thing looks like the mold is dying or something. Like it is crusty. Like up here it's like okay. But down there they've got all kinds of weird artifact, like rough stuff, texturing. I don't know what that's all about. But it doesn't really matter. It's plastic. Which is kind of odd that these are plastic. I guess it doesn't really matter. Basically what these are is they're different keys to unlock I forget what the dumb word is. It starts with a P. It's not panels, I don't think. But basically like your fuse boxes or your breaker box, well, same thing, but breaker boxes, your different panels that you have for electrical stuff, I guess. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I'm a historian. But anyway, and I did not do my research on these. But anyway, they are basically there to help you open. They're literal keys to help you open things. So they probably do not need. They definitely do not need to be durable. Relatively speaking, they don't need to be durable. They need to last for years, but they don't need to be, super crazy durable stuff. I've got 3 profiles and 4 sizes. So we've got 2 squares, a smaller one and a bigger one. They don't say what sizes that is. So they're with these things, they're going with my opinion of slotted screwdrivers, which is if it doesn't fit, I need a different one. And I don't need to worry about actual sizes. So there's a little and a big square. And then there's a triangle. And then there's whatever that is. Yeah, I don't know. Like a circle and a slotted cross. Again, I've never even seen the things that these go to. I've seen things that little kids like shape, putting the round peg in the round hole type, toys. I've seen these shapes in that. That's it. But I guess these are like security panels or whatever. You kind of open it up. You have to have a certain size and shape thing, whatever these are, to get into that, so that normal people don't. Unless they're recessed in there, I really don't see why any of these couldn't just, somebody could just grab it with a pair of pliers and twist it, but whatever. Maybe that's why these are insulated, because those are hot and they're got 480 volts going through them, so that people can't use pliers on them. I doubt it, but anyway, I think that these are insulated for safety reasons if you did touch something that was hot with them, or in case the panel itself has somehow become electrified. I don't know. I'm not an electrician at all. But I suspect that is probably the case. The case, speaking of cases, this case is nice. It's got elastic things that hold these that are very, they're very tight. Which is good, because that means that these aren't going to rattle around. The elastic should last fairly well, because you don't have to, it's stretchy. It's stretching in there already. It's not going to, kind of get stretched out a little bit and then not hold anything. Which is nice, because as elastic wears, it gets less and less elastic, and it kind of just stays, stretched. But this looks like it's tight enough that that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen, but it's gonna not let go of the screwdriver blades as soon as if it was like the perfect fit right away. Anyway, the case is very nicely built, it's padded, it's got Velcro. It's well designed. It fits into a very compact area for all of, 16 different screwdrivers. So you've got 4 and 4 and 4 and 4. So 16 screwdrivers, 2 handles, and your case, which is a 19-piece kit. And this is one time where the case, I think, should be considered a piece, because if you don't have the case, this is just going to be a jumbled mess. And, whatever. Anyway, so that's that. And then it does have 2 handles, and I've heard differing opinions as to why that is. Maybe they, think, oh, this one's going to get electrocuted, and then you need to use the other one. I don't know. I do think that the other theory, which I've heard, is correct, which is you have 2 handles so that you can have your, 2 most used things. You don't have to be constantly switching blades out. You can just pick up 2 different screwdrivers, which is, generally the case. You need like this one to do this job and this one to do that job. You don't need a third one. But you do need 2. So I think that's really nice. This kit was $70, which is a lot for, 16 screwdrivers. But they are insulated. The one thing about this that I kind of wish is that it had a spring in here so that you could actually get this out one-handed without like doing that. Which, again, you can do, but it's just kind of pain. I wish it was like an impact driver where you pull it out or whatever, and it just shoots the bit, or the blade in this case. I think that would be nice. I don't know that would be... I think that would make it more difficult to put the blade in. But anyway, so that is that case, or this kit, I should say. Again, it does fold up fairly small, which obviously that's not as small as it gets. It gets like that small. It's really not big. It has your branding right there, and then it actually tells each one of these pouches, whatever kit you get, it actually has a stick or a decal kind of thing here. It's stitched on. It's rubberized, but it's actually got a decal that's very detailed. Of what item is in here. So you've got your 10, Wera packages nicely, put in your toolbox, and you can just glance at it and say, oh, I want the insulated screwdrivers, boom. Don't have to go like searching, oh, is this nope, this is the whatever screwdriver kit. It also does have a belt loop on the back, which I think is nice. I wouldn't wear this on my belt, but you can. And it's also got Velcro here, so you could Velcro it to something. And these cases normally come with another piece of Velcro. I didn't see it in mine, but that doesn't mean anything. I was fairly fast to get it out of the box and look at it. I wasn't worried about Velcro, but that is a thing. If this is, I believe, genuine Velcro, it's definitely good quality Velcro. Feels like, anyway. But, I mean, it's an option. If you want to, have it on your belt or Velcro it to a wall or something, you can do it. Actually, that would be nice to have a nice, wall with all of your screwdriver boxes or cases on there. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but it would, some people that would be nice for. Anyway, so that is the video today. Probably going to put that up. I'm going to see what I did with my microscope videos, and I will probably post another one of those soon. I kind of got behind on that. I didn't finish it back into back into homework, and nope, the microscope isn't done. It's not even on past where it was before when I did that initial video, or the recent one that I posted anyway. Anyway, so I hope you guys found that interesting. I really hope you found it interesting because it's 55 minutes long. Talking about screwdrivers and pliers and that. But anyway, honestly, the thing about this that is interesting is I was looking at some of these that were, this is a very nice kit, and the reason it is, in my opinion, is because of the value that you get in it. 16 screwdrivers. I was looking at kits from Wera, Viha, I should say, Knipex / whatever their parent company is, and Bondhus's parent fellow, I guess. I'm totally ignoring Klein at this point, but I looked at them too. Those 4 companies were looking at approximately $25 to $35 for 2 Pozzi drive slotted or 2 Phillips slotted screwdrivers. So I could get 4 screwdrivers for the price of this, basically. So that's why I went with this. But I think that the fellow ones would be more ergonomic. They look more like the Bondhus screwdriver handles, which I really love. However, the difference is that they're like a grippy silicone material on the outside, but the inside is actually a squishy gel of some sort, which I guess kind of molds to your hand or something. It's like supposed to be super, super comfortable to use. That's what I actually wanted, but obviously I was like, hey, I can get 16 screwdrivers for the price of 4. But anyway, so those looked good. Klein, I would have gotten Viha, except for the screw fitment issue. I've heard a lot of people love them and ignore these 2 things, or don't have a problem with these 2 things. But there's several people that I've heard of that had a problem with the metal being too soft and wearing out quickly, as compared to other screwdrivers that they've used that don't. And I've also heard of the screwdriver blade tip, whatever, not fitting in the screw very well. Now, I said that earlier in the video, and then I totally forgot to elaborate on that. But part of that, I think, can be attributed to these combination screws. Now, I'm going to go show you what I'm talking about. And these are not the same. These are actually a different one that aren't in this kit, that I don't know if anybody makes other than Milwaukee, which is totally something I haven't talked about today at all, except for a pair of pliers. These guys. So here's another weird one, and that's the triangle screw, which I don't have anything for. I don't. The Wii's, or not Wii's, Nintendo and whatever company this is, use that, and it's like a security thing to keep you out because it's so rare. You can buy it, I'm sure. That's not that hard, but it's just most people don't have that. And I have more screwdriver sizes and shapes than most people do, and I don't have it. But it's probably a security bit set would get into that easily. Anyway, these are the ones that I'm talking about. These are square drive / now, I mean, you can't really, stupid phone doesn't want to focus on anything. Let's see here. Is there anything that it will focus on today? Maybe, there we go. That'll, somehow it focuses when it's zoomed in. So you can see, if I bring out my pointing device here, you can see you've got a slotted right there, you've got a Phillips right there, and then in here you've got a place for a square drive to fit. Now, I have done this, and most people do this. They look at that and they say, oh, I could use a square drive, a Phillips, or a slotted in that. That is erroneous. You can, but it'll probably not work very well, and it could strip it out. Now with this, there's not really that much torque going on, so it probably isn't going to strip it out. However, if we grab 3 of these, we're going to grab that number 2, that number 2, and this number 2. So the first 2, I'm not getting slotted because you can see that. We know how badly those work. And you can actually see that here. Goes in and it turns it, and it kind of wants to fall off the side as they do. Yeah, it works, but it's just not very good. Now you've got your Phillips here. It goes in here and it fits, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of floppy in there, as Phillips are. Meh. Okay. Then you've got your square drive, which also doesn't want to focus. Square drive doesn't focus, but anyway. My phone doesn't want to focus on it. I believe that is a number 1 square drive, not a number 2. So that's another issue. It kind of fits, like the number 2 doesn't go all the way down, this goes all the way down, but then it doesn't fit in the top, as you can see. It's like it doesn't really fit either. Now you've got the wrong stinking one, because I pulled out the wrong stinking one. Pulled out a Pozzi drive. Well, we can show you that. Pozzi drive goes in here terribly. You can see that extra. You've got your normal Phillips. Look there. Thing. You can see that triangle in the middle between the main wings there, I guess I'm going to call them. That means that it doesn't fit all the way down in here. So it's barely, barely in that screw. It's going to strip out super easily. So that's what your Phillips slotted is for. Now they do make these, obviously, that are Pozzi drive and slotted, but I just don't have that. And this fits right in there and does a decent job. Now this is actually still not the correct tool for that screw. I'm going to see if I can find what is, which is right here. This is the Milwaukee. Set you down. Don't get seasick there. This is a Milwaukee Ecx Bit. I have no idea on earth what any of that abbreviation is for. This is a slotted and essentially a slotted square drive, or a square slotted. It's got a square drive in the center, and it's got a slotted there. Now this also comes in number 1 and 2, immediately fits in there, and actually doesn't fit very well, which is odd, which is very interesting to me, I should say. Let's see if the other one does. I wonder if this is a Phillips slotted, or if this is just a terribly designed screw and it just doesn't fit anything. There's also a possibility. Nope, it's Phillips slotted. Now these things work. They actually do fit the profile very well, as you can see, because really, if you look at that, that is a slotted and a square, and then just a little bit of a cutout for a Phillips slotted. If I can find it here, there it is. Fits right in there. About as well as it will. Now you can't feel this, but this, and it won't stay in there, but this thing fits perfect, well, not perfectly, but it fits well as any of these things have in there, and it does a good job. These kind of fit on the top, and they'll turn it, but they really don't like fit down in there. They're flat. Where if you look at that one, it's not flat. It's got a Phillips point down in there. So there are other ones of these. There's actually better versions of these, I think. Probably PB Swiss has some, or the like. Somebody probably makes them. But these are just terrible. Well, shouldn't say that. They're not a terrible screw. It's just like, it's odd. I don't know if there is a screw driver that they actually made to fit this. If this is just like a bad execution of one of the three things, you know, Phillips slotted or the ECX, or if there's another option out there that actually fits these perfectly that they actually made this for. Don't know. But these are apparently becoming a large thing. Again, I've used Phillips or slotted on these a lot. I mean, I'm not an electrician, but I have done electrical work. I've used it on here. I've never stripped one. But for you know, anybody that's an electrician does this a lot. It's going to be frustrating to use a tool that's the wrong tool because it won't fit in here very well. Now, one thing that I will say about these that I've found works fairly well, actually, is if you use a number 3 Phillips, which I do actually have a version of right here, which we can try and see if it actually works, or if I'm just a liar. It fits. Not very well, but it fits. But yeah, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's just they've gotten to the point, I think, where I think that they actually need to make new screwdrivers so that people think that they need new screwdrivers, or new screws, so that people need new screwdrivers. And I don't know if this screw type was invented because they wanted to invent a new thing you had to buy, and it's like a security bit kind of thing, but it's low key because it's like all the normal ones just combined. I don't know if that's the case, or if it is they literally just were like, hey, there's a lot of people that have slotted screwdrivers, there's a lot of people that have square drive and Phillips, let's make a screw that all of those fit, that fits all 3 of those. And then it just turned into this mess of a thing. I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. We do have it. But anyway, that was, I'm totally getting off track here. That was my review of these. They are nice. They do work well. They do fit screws very well. Actually, I didn't show you that. I'm going to put you back up here where you're going to get seasick again. And I'll show you that. Now that's a Phillips. And it actually survived the shake test for a second there. Did it the other day, and it actually was like really like this one. Like, this is a Phillips. Like, I have to tap on that thing to get it to fall off. It's amazing. They are fairly the Weha. This is probably the most controversial thing about this is this handle style. From basically everybody I've heard, they love it or they hate it. I'm closer to the I don't like it. I don't like hate it. I haven't used it very much, like once. But I don't like it. It's not nearly as nice as the Bondhis. Or frankly, like any other screwdriver handle I've used. I've used the square ones like that. I've used the square ones like the Harbor Freight, the black Harbor Freight ones there. I've got like a tri-lobe type thing at Stanley. I've got a square kind of thing there. I've got the Bondhis, which is kind of a squarish oval. I've used a lot of different tool handles, and this is probably the least comfortable, honestly. I don't like it. I'll use it, but it's just not, like, oh wow, this is great. It's okay. It's just not. I think it'll work. The problem that I have with it, it fits my hand okay. I just don't like holding it the way that they want you to hold. Like, it's designed to be held like this. I don't normally hold a screwdriver like that. I hold it up here. Which, that actually works kind of. I usually hold it with my finger like that. Like, my pinky finger is kind of over almost to the very edge there. And it just doesn't, like, the sizing is just barely wrong to not allow that. So it's more like this that I have to do. Or even what I've done is, because this part isn't grippy at all, so I kind of choke back on it like this, and I use my index and thumb to turn it, and then there's like nothing back here. So I don't know that the shape is the bad thing. It's just the rubber isn't up here, maybe. It's just not a handle I like that much. The Bondhis is okay. You know what? I'm gonna fit back here. Too many coffee cakes. The Bondhis is totally covered in sawdust, but we're gonna ignore that. The Bondhis has a rubberized coating all over the entire handle, except for the back here and the very front here. Doesn't need it up here. This is actually nice because you can put that in the palm of your hand and it's not fighting you when you're twisting it. Very well designed handle. It doesn't roll. It wouldn't roll there anyway, but it doesn't roll. I mean, it does, but it's got flats on it, so it'll stop. It's got flats up here. It's got flats back here, which also helped with your torque. I generally do like square shaped handles. The tri-lobe ones, I generally like the square ones, honestly, but just really nice, pretty grippy. It's not as grippy as the Weira, which I find odd. And again, that might just be because of the goo on. Yeah, it's still not as grippy when you clean off the wood shavings and stuff off. Wood sawdust. Goodness gracious, that was hard to find. It's good, but it's not as grippy as this is. Like, by far, this yellow part of this thing is much, much more grippy. However, the whole thing is grippy versus a little tiny fraction of this. Maybe 30% of this handle is actually grippy material. It's not much of it. I like the look of this, but I mean, it's a tool. I'm not buying it to look at it. I don't know. Again, I don't know that it's the shape. Maybe if I use it more, I'll get used to it. It's not so much the shape I hate. It's just I wish that they had the grippy stuff up here too. Because that's normally where I put torque back here. with the rest of my hand, but then I want to spin it. And it's like this part is fighting me when I'm spinning it, and I'm slipping up here. Because my hands are always dry. So, I don't know. It's just not, I just don't like it that much. It's not, again, it's not to me, it's not a love-hate. It's like I just don't like it. It's just not nice to use. This, I've used, it's comfortable. I mean, it helps the steel in this stuff is, in these Bondhis, in this case, Torx, drivers are just, I mean, it's wonderful to use. These are perfectly balanced. They're the perfect weight. They've got a plenty grippy material. It's not the grippiest stuff in the world. The Hogue stocks. Forget that there's a gun stock that I've used, that a friend of mine had, that I totally forget what the name of it is. But anyway, it's like a rubberized material. I kid you not. It feels, when you touch it, it feels like you touch it and it grabs your hand. It doesn't feel like you're grabbing something. It feels like it's grabbing you. It's that sticky. And I mean, it's not sticky, but it's like that. Grippy. It's really a weird feeling. Like it doesn't, that stuff doesn't, it probably wouldn't matter if it got grease on it. Like it'd still be grippy. This is not that. This is not even nearly that. This isn't that. It's pretty close, to be fair, but it's still not that. That's like a textured version of this almost. So it's even more grippy. But this thing is just like, it's the perfect combination of everything. It's got plastic on it. That's fine. I don't care. It's got good steel. It grips the screws very well. It fits them very well. It's got a good grippy handle. That's a nice shape. It's not, crazy, designed and all this stuff like this. It's not, this thing, which I honestly, I don't know. This is okay. This I don't mind. This is like a version of this, but from like the 50s or whenever this was made. I think it was the 50s or 60s. This is like an early version of that. I mean, you can totally see the similarity to that. But then they were like, hey, let's add this huge bump in the middle of it, which I don't like. It kind of digs into my palm, and then it digs into whichever one of these fingers happens to be over it, and it's just, yeah. This thing is just a swell. You've got your fingers here, and it grips, and whatever. And honestly, wooden screwdriver handles, I think the worst thing that could happen to these is they mold or they rot. Like, I don't think that getting this wet is going to make it slippery. Now, I could be totally wrong. I've never gotten this wet, but it just doesn't seem like it would do that. Obviously, neither one of these, it's getting it wet or whatever, that's not going to hurt it. Might rust the metal, but, that's not going to hurt the handle at all. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to return it. I think it's usable. It's just not enjoyable. Anyway, so that is my very long video on screwdrivers. Those screwdrivers specifically. But anyway, they do work. They're not bad tools. I just don't really like the handle. And I don't know. I wouldn't have liked it if nobody'd mentioned anything, but I think it's kind of one of those, like, almost placebo effects, or opposite of a placebo effect or something, where if nobody had said anything about it, I might not have even noticed it. I would have noticed it. I would have been like, oh, I don't really like this handle. But it wouldn't have been like a, I don't know, almost like a trying to defend my opinion of the thing and why I don't like it. I would have just been, don't like it. Honestly, the biggest complaint I have with this, for now, because I haven't used it very much. Over and above these handles, the biggest complaint I have with these is this. And it's probably going to continue to be my biggest complaint, because this is laser etched or printed. I don't know which. It looks like it's printed. It's not molded or engraved, which means that as you use this, eventually that is going to wear off, unless they somehow like tattooed it into this and it goes all the way through the plastic, which they may have done. I don't know, but unless they did that, I don't think it's going to last very long. The reason that I mean, pretty obvious why I don't like that design. But the other thing is, you know, it's like I can look at it generally and see, oh, that's not a Phillips. That's, you know, a Phillips slotted. Unless it's like that. And then it just looks exactly like a Phillips. So that, and, you know, and you can't tell. Now, some of these on the handle have an engraved, like, thing on there, or at least printed, that says what kind of screwdriver it is. That is what, like, that's what I'd want. I'd want it to be engraved in there, and then like filled with a black epoxy or something, so it really stands out. Like, this is this. And then put it in like 2 or 3 places on the blade. I don't want it just like, you know, Phillips slotted on the one spot, and then you have to like go and look at the thing to be like, oh, I think this is that. Again, that's not that big of a deal, but it's just kind of frustrating. It's like I could see that wearing off, and then you never know what it was. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I haven't had it long enough. But it just kind of seems like one of those things that's going to happen eventually. And I just don't like tools that do that. I'd much prefer, and now they did it with this too. It's made in USA. The Irwin is coming off. It's just, they saved a little bit of money by not having to make a mold or, you know, use a machine to engrave it or whatever. And it's going to wear off. This thing is an iFixit. This case, the tools inside this case cost $15. The case, you know, obviously they charged me for it, but it was free. It came with the tools. It was part of the case. The tools came in the case with the foam in it for $15. And they embossed a big, huge logo on the top of this thing. It's 3-dimensional. They made a mold that did this. This says big letters, iFixit. That's not going to wear off. It's 3-dimensional, so, you know, technically, if you had it upside down and you're on sandpaper all the time, then yes, it's going to wear off. But nobody's going to wear that off in normal use. This, maybe because it's in the handle, maybe it won't do this. But I've used a lot of drill bits. See that shiny bit down here? Up here, it's kind of black, and down there it's all shiny. That is what I'm expecting this to do. It's plastic on plastic, so maybe it won't be as bad. But as, you know, literal carbide on metal that needs to be soft by nature, but maybe it won't happen. But that's what I'm expecting to happen to this, is the wear from going in and out of the quick connect, and just the wear and tear of wobbling around in there and everything, which it does do. Between all of that, I think that stuff is going to wear off. Not a huge deal, but it's just kind of frustrating to me, because it's like, guys, for maybe $10 more that you would charge us, we could have had that a little bit better job there. Now, they may not have done that because it would have thinned out the insulation. It would have either made it 3-dimensional up here. Now, this doesn't matter if it's up here. It might have made it three-dimensional down here, which would have made it not fit in here. So that's why they didn't do it three-dimensional. If they had engraved it in here, or, you know, used the mold or whatever to make it down below, recessed it, it might have made this insulation too thin. That might have been a concern. Okay. They could have done it up here. They did a three-dimensional thing up here. It's going to wear off eventually, but it's not going to wear off for a long time compared to ink. I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's just kind of frustrating. And I would have liked it to be like at least the size and the shape and the profile, I mean, on this end. So you could look at either one of the ends and be like, oh, that's what that is. Again, that's literally my biggest beef with this. The handle is kind of and they didn't label this very well, in my opinion. Anyway. And if they were going to go with the way that they did it, I wish they would have done it on more than one of the 6 sides on this. That would have been nice, but whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night, because it is late here. But I just wanted to go over that. I showed you a few different things. By the way, I did want to give a shout out. I'm just totally adding length to this. I did want to give a shout out to Milwaukee. I really, really, really love this case. This little kit that they have. This thing costs like $10 at Home Depot. Came with these Ecx bits, which I literally bought for these screws. Might not have been for these specific screws, but I bought them because I was working on an electrical thing, and I was like, they've got to have something that fits in here, because none of my screwdrivers were fitting it. And I looked and I looked and I looked in Home Depot, and I finally found this one kit that had those. I literally hadn't seen any of those anywhere else until I started looking for these. And then I saw the Phillips slotted and the Pozzi drive slotted. And there's another one, I forget. I think PB Swiss makes it. That's some other thing. I think it's for the square drive and slotted. But anyway, these are these Ecx bits from Milwaukee. And they work. I mean, they will turn these. They work on them. But this kit also comes with, it looks, I don't know how much I changed this, but common, it looks like 2 Phillips number 2 and a Phillips number 3. And then a 15, 20, and 25 Torx in here, and then a number 2 square, and a number 1 and number 2 Ecx. In this case, it also came with a bit holder. That isn't it, but it did come with one. I don't know where it went, but I took it out and I used it in something, whatever. Also has a lanyard hole here, and this thing is a wire stripper. Now, they're selling this to electricians, so I really don't understand why they would add a wire stripper to that. Because if you're an electrician and you don't have one of those, and you're relying on this, you're in trouble. But this is a nice thing for like a maintenance guy that doesn't want to carry around 5 different tools. The bit holder or the regular bits actually do fit into the end of this, and you can use it as a screwdriver, which is why it's kind of this odd shape. It's spring-loaded, and then it has the wire stripper on it too. It's really well designed. It's not a screwdriver, but it does work pretty well as one, as far as a multi-tool goes. Arguably better than a Leatherman. Which I love my Surge, but just that it doesn't do that very well. It's like it goes back to the old adage of, you know, if you have, you know, are a jack of all trades but master of none, pretty much applies to all multi-tools. Now, some of them are better than others. But, you know, if you get this, it's not going to do this or that as well as that, or, you know, this, or screwdrivers. It's not, but it gets pretty close. In a pinch, it works really well. But anyway, so I love this thing. It's $10. Comes with a bunch of bits and handy holder. Comes with a bit adapter. And good night. Nowadays, you almost have to spend $10 on a bit holder. You know, I mean, this is a Makita. One of the new Makitas. I think it was $5 or $6 for that one bit adapter with nothing in it. A little short thing. Anyway, so this is a really good deal, honestly, and it's the only way that I know of to get these bits. I'm sure Milwaukee sells them by themselves or something, but it's the only way I know of to get them. And I am going to stop videotaping now because this is way, way, way too long. But I just wanted to show you guys that, let you know about these different things. By the way, this is not insulated. Those are insulated. This isn't. But I just want to let you guys know about these things, and some of the different screwdrivers there are. I'm just going to throw this out there, as far as the best screwdriver you can get that is non-insulated, it's this. If you can go Bondhus, that's the best I've seen. The Fellow is probably pretty good. It's made by the same company, has Bondhus. It's like a third party kind of, I don't know. It's weird how it works, but it's like owned by the same company. The handles look the same. I think they're supposed to be more comfortable than this because this is like hard. But those are like, you know, squishy or memory foamish or something. That's not a good analogy, but you know, basically it's squishy. Those are supposed to be really good. I've never used one, but going from what I've heard, those are supposed to be really good. But anyway, I did actually want to address, I did mention that I didn't do Klein. I looked at them, but I did like the idea. They have some of these things that are double-ended. So they've got a Phillips 2 and a Phillips 1 slotted, you know, 1/4 inch slotted 3/16 or whatever. I did like that. However, the shaft of the screwdriver wasn't as long. It was only like 3 inches instead of 4, something like that. So that's why I didn't get it. And Klein has a lot of, I think that they're kind of going almost the way of Snap-on. They've got they used to be really good. They still have some tools that are really good, but they also have a bunch of tools that are just expensive junk, basically. I've heard horror stories about their screwdriver bits not being very good, or they're not holding, they don't hold in very well, or this or that, whatever. They were more money than this kit was going to be, for an equivalent, even close to equivalent kit, and it still didn't come with any of these specialized screwdrivers. So that's why I didn't go with them. Mainly because I wanted a screwdriver that was a decent length, but also because it was going to be more money and all that. If I was going, again, without ever using them, if I was going to go with the best top of the line screwdrivers that I could get, I would either go PB Swiss or Fellow. And I think I would probably go with Fellow. PB Swiss, I believe, is more like this. It's a hard handle. It's not squishy, but it's got a much better rubberized coating. It's grippier than this, supposedly. Again, never used either one, but I'm going from what I've heard. But they are like insanely more money. I mean, all like even Wera, they have you know, $15-$20 screwdrivers or whatever. PB Swiss, the only place that I could find them, I don't think that they even had a kit of insulated screwdrivers. I think they make them, but I just couldn't find a kit of more than like 3 or 4 of them, and it was like $50 for that. So it was only, you know, $12 or $15 per, but it was like, you know, $100 or $200 to get this kind of a size kit. And it's just like, no, I don't want to. Swiss tools would be cool, but I don't want to support the whole country. I'm not working on Rolexes here. Anyway, I think that their tools are probably wonderful. Everything I've heard about them says that they're wonderful, but it's just I can't afford that. I can't even justify that. You know, I don't work on hot circuits if I can avoid it, and I certainly don't work on them enough to, you know, spend, you know, that kind of money to get a set of screwdrivers. Now, I will say, if you want to get into this, you do not have to spend this much. You can get like 4 screwdrivers for about $40, about $10 per, from Weira. It'll be 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, someplace between 4 and 7 from all these companies is going to be between $40 and $65 to get a kit. Now you can go below that, you can get like pairs of them, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, I would say you need 4. You need a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips, and you need 2 sizes of slotted. I don't think you really need more than 2 slotted. But if you buy a kit, that's what they're going to throw in there. That's the first thing they're going to throw in there is a bunch of those, which is why I have 4 of those. I would have skipped all 8 of these if I could have gotten these 8 by themselves. I don't know if it would have saved me any money, but you know, it's like I need, well, six of these 8 I would have skipped. Because I just don't, these I hardly ever use, especially if I have, you know, wherever they are, these things. I would have, you know, and this, I've never even seen what these go to. But again, I need them because, you know, that's the only way I can get these. So, anyway, if you want to get them, I would recommend getting the set that just has the Phillips and just the slotted. There's 4 of them for like 40, or you can get 5 of them for 40, which is 3 slotted and 2 Phillips. Or you can get 7, which are like 4 and 3, you know, that kind of thing. You can get in there, if you start mixing it up, you could get 3 or 2 Phillips, 2 square drive, and then 4 or 3 slotted. No, 2 Phillips, 1 square drive, and 4 slotted. Which I think is stupid. I don't know why. Like, you need 2 different sizes of everything other than Phillips. Because they make 2 different sizes of everything other than Phillips, or slotted, I should say. Anyway, just you could do it for about $40. You could get a nice set. Not this set, not this big, but you could get a good set of your basic Phillips and Phillips and slotted. I honestly, other than these things, I've never seen a square drive electrical fastener. I'm in America. I don't know anything about Europe, other than I believe that they like Robertson. Not Europe. I mean, it is Europe, but Great Britain likes Robertson, or Canada. I know Canada does. I don't remember if Great Britain does or not. They like that. Europe in general apparently likes Pozzi drive. I like Torx. If I ever get enough money to just buy my own island, I'm going to have everything on it just be Torx. And I'll just spend all my money on that. which would be, I don't know, the biggest waste of funds in the world. But anyway, so yeah, you can start off for around $40, get a good kit. Alternatively, you could buy them individually. Obviously, I mean that's the easiest way to do it, because then you can actually pick what you want. It's a lot more money to do it that way, because they cost between 10 for a very small slotted like that, up to like, I don't know, 18 or 20 for one of these, specialized ones, or 33 or something for a pair of those. So you can do it, you can get exactly what you want, but you're going to spend a lot more money on it. Anyway, so that is actually going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this, or at least learned something from it. And like and subscribe. I do try and keep these shorter than this. This is probably the longest video I've ever done. But I just had a lot of different things to say about this. So anyway, I will see you on the next one. Woodworker Royer out.